Mornings with Purpose.
Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12. Your mid-morning magazine show.
Empowering women.
Embracing community. On The Voice of the Cape.
Empowering women and embracing community right here on The Voice of the Cape. And so when we start to think about our living through a shift in education, so that is as significant as the arrival of internet itself. And so when we're looking at artificial intelligence, such as AI, is no longer a distant concept. It is already sitting in our children's hands, helping them write, solve, explain, and sometimes even avoid thinking altogether. For parents, this creates a tension of, is AI helping my child learn, or is it replacing the learning process? And when we're looking at underprivileged, under-resourced schools especially, AI holds its transformative potential. Right, depending on how you see it. For most people, it can act as a tutor where there aren't enough teachers. It can be a guide where textbooks fall short. And so to help us understand how this tool can be used in an ethical way that contributes towards learning, we are joined by Ridwan Samodien, who is a life coach, educator and facilitator. Assalamu alaikum, Ridwan, and welcome to Mornings with Purpose.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And to all your listeners out, I wanted to say your viewers, but all the listeners out there across the Cape, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And I'm humbled and delighted to be in your presence once again.
Alhamdulillah, we are excited to have this conversation with you, and the topic at hand is ethical AI use for learners. And this isn't just a conversation for teachers, but also a conversation for parents, how they can be involved, because we have had some extensive conversations in the past about the dangers of AI, but then now we are looking at how it can actually be used in a way that is conducive. How can parents contribute towards their children's growth, especially where they themselves fall short in understanding certain concepts in textbooks. So when looking at underprivileged versus well-resourced schools, how can AI be used to reduce the gap between the two?
Yeah, firstly, let's speak about the underprivileged schools. You know, I have this view which I gained from our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It says that the greatest gift the greatest gift that a father can give his son is a gift of akhlaq, sound character. And I built on that in my teaching experience as to say that the greatest gift that an adult can give the child is the gift of a quality education and sound character. And I want to emphasize the word character because you alluded that AI can be misused, you know. And so how do we bridge the gap? We bridge the gap by just quickly looking back 30 years into democracy. And we have still too many schools that look exactly the same as they did under apartheid. Prefabricated buildings, untaught playgrounds, no libraries, no laboratories. The gap is not closing. In fact, with the advancement in technology, the gap is widening. And therefore, with the unchecked rise of AI, the danger is that it widens further. Because the schools with resources will race ahead, while most of our vulnerable children, those in a former disadvantaged, under-resourced schools that we know where to be, are left further behind. And so there is the other side of that truth, that when AI is used properly and effectively, it can begin to narrow the gap and give every child the quality educational experience that they so richly deserve. So, for example, AI can give a child in Mitchell's Plain or in the Eastern Cape sitting in a class of 45 learners with one overwhelmed teacher, a patient, always available learning companion, one that explains a concept 10 different ways until it clicks, one that never gets frustrated, one that never gets tired, and one that never gives up. It is how we're going to use that tool effectively. That is where the magic lies. And so practically speaking, we, the organization that I am from, Citizen Leader Lab, we are taking practical steps. Through a partnership with our partner, Marvel Technologies, who host our online platform, Zibuza.net, we, together with Canva, are rolling out free Canva training for schools. And we're also rolling out Microsoft training, basic Microsoft training I'm talking about for teachers in former underprivileged schools. And so we have approached the Metropole South Director and offered her this gift. And yes, we are in talks to make it happen. But this is where we need to go, to find resources. Sometimes the resources are there. And when we're given that opportunity, we are not prepared to take it. And it's a saying that said the early bird catches the worm. It's those birds that come and collect the gifts on hand that can make the magic happen. So yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question, but yeah.
1000%. So I just want to play devil's advocate here a little bit, because last week I came across this video on social media, and someone asked a question, someone in the audience, and they asked, where do we see ourselves in the next 20, 30 years where AI is concerned in the job market? And the lady answered saying that she basically, just to summarize her points, she said that we're going to see a rise in people losing their jobs when it comes to soft skills. But if you equip yourself with hard skills that that a robot or anything cannot be able to replace, that will actually work in your favor. So when we are looking at young people, especially grade 12 learners who are going to be entering either university or the workforce, what sort of skills do they need in order to make sure that they don't find themselves in the situation where their skills will be useless in the next 2 to 3 years?
Exactly. Maybe I should respond by just saying the following. Education is not what you are taught. It is what you become. Humble enough to listen, just enough to act, free enough to think for yourself, and wise enough to question everything. And so with AI, we can rely on AI completely. And AI in future will do away with many of the jobs that we know. And AI and technology will create jobs that we have absolutely no idea will exist. If you just look at the pandemic, how many jobs sprung from having to prevent this disease from spreading and to protect people. So there was a myriad of jobs that was created because of the need and necessity. But one thing that we must be very, very clear on is that AI can maybe replace other jobs. But in the educational sphere, in that classroom, I say what happens between that four walls in your classroom is the moment of truth. And so, having said that, we can never replace the human being in a classroom setup, because where the world is heading with technology and wanting to replace everything, the need for human connection is there, and that is innate. We were born with that connection, that bond between the mother and the child and the family. We cannot do without the human connection. And so that will always be there. But it's how that human connection sees his or her role and how he uses that role effectively to instill the value of Ubuntu and the philosophy of the circle of courage, for example, sense of belonging, sense of independence, sense of mastery, sense of generosity. Well, in essence, is how we as human beings need to interact. And the AI can just enhance that, cannot replace that, and never will, and it shouldn't, in my view.
Yes, I definitely agree in that regard. So when we are looking at what does AI, what does ethical use look like for learners specifically from grades 7 till 12, what habits should students and also parents install in their children to so that they can develop skills that will help them to ensure that they are still thinking and not just generating answers?
I have the saying that your future depends on your ability to read for meaning, So you cannot be without being able to read. The first Quranic injunction is Iqra, read, And so your future, I want to build on that by saying, your future depends on your ability to think for yourself. So the ethical use of AI for our learners, for example, must be built on one foundational question, which says that, is this tool helping you to think more deeply, or is it thinking for you? So in the world that I come from, the time to think world of Nancy Klein, we believe that the quality of your attention determines the quality of your thinking. AI must serve that same principle to enhance thinking and never ever to replace it. We cannot just take what the AI has produced and regurgitate that without understanding what has been said. So, for example, a grade 9 learner uses AI to research a topic and then is asked, what do you think? What does this mean for your community? A grade 11 student uses AI to check the essay structures, but writes every word from their own heart. That is ethical use. We must also teach children digital citizenship alongside AI literacy. AI can be biased. It can be wrong. It reflects the world that built it. And that world has not always been fair to people who look like us. So we teach our children to question, to verify, to think critically. A child who thinks for himself cannot be colonized, like we used to say. That child is free. And so, coming back to ethics, there is this saying that says that you are at your happiest when you live your values. And so the child needs to get to know him or herself. Every teacher needs to know him or herself. What are my core values? And be guided by those values. And this is what sits at the very heart of this question for me. I believe in a values-driven education. A person, as I said, is at his happiest when they are living the values. We need to give children from an early age a clear awareness of what is right and what is wrong, and the consequences of every decision they make. This builds the moral fiber of our society. It is our greatest defense against the rot and corruption that has taken root in our country. It is what will guide a child to make the morally correct decision, even when they are sitting alone with an AI screen in front of them.
It's very interesting that you mentioned, that you highlighted decolonization of the mind and of education, because the world is definitely not very kind to people like us, and I say people of color, children of color. And so when we are using these sort of tools, it can, in a sense, also either make us or break us, especially when we don't understand its true power over us, right? And so I definitely echo the sentiment of when you are given, when you do use AI, you should also use it with your own discretion and ensuring that you are also well equipped in the topic at hand, because sometimes AI can make mistakes, and there has been many times where mistakes were found. Even I myself, there was a time when I was like looking something up, I just didn't have the time to use Google, and AI gave me something that was very contradictory, and I said, no, but that's wrong. This is what you said, this, and now you're saying this, and then it backtracks and says, oh yes, you are right. And within that, it already shows that even AI it can be dumb as well. We think we're giving it so much power with all of this knowledge, but at the same time, it's still something that is still developing. And so when we're looking at our community, our underprivileged communities, where parents are asked to help their children with homework, that can be a bit of a stickler, given the fact that most parents are either overworked, they're a little bit burnt out, and then being told to sit down with a child to help them with homework. How can parents be part of the learning experience in that regard, especially given the context, the socioeconomic context?
Yeah, you see, like I said earlier on, the greatest gift an adult can give a child is quality education. So I also had this view that parents used to toss their children over the fence in grade R or grade 1, and then they want to collect them at grade 7, and then they toss them over the fence at high school in grade 8, and they collect them at grade 12. Research has shown that where parents are involved in a child's life, that child does so much better. He has great unseen advantage over other children where there's no parents, where there's no father, for example. So having said that, we need to live the philosophy of Ubuntu where your child is my child. And even more so in the home where we have so many absent parents. I mean, there's a new bill that regulates how a pregnant learner must be treated in school. So where's that father, you know? So the point I'm making, if parents play an active role in the child's life, just like they would guard the screens because the children are is accessible to them, you know, all these sites that can be harmful to them. And so, like they would to have to monitor the age restriction on the TV or on their phones, parents need to monitor the child's AI. So, ask them the questions: what have you learned today? How have you engaged with the AI today? And show me what you've done, so that the parents can see, is this my child's work or is it the AI's work?
What have you learned today, and show me how it can be applied. Those are some really important questions. I would love to, I'm seeing some messages here, but I just want to close this discussion. Okay, I don't really want to close it because I feel like it is an ongoing discussion and that it should also exist everywhere, whether it is at work, whether it's at home, at the table. It's something that is very profound. But when we are looking at the future education, what can we expect where technology and AI is concerned?
Yeah, just a very quick one. You know, my muse, my hero, the late Professor Brian O'Connell said that when it comes to patents and copyrights, South Africa on a graph is probably minuscule. The next genius may just sit in Langa or Khayelitsha or Grassy Park, you know. When we use AI effectively and we allow that brilliant child, and they're all brilliant, you know, I call them South Africa's clever kids. And we give them and give them the tools in their hands to design something that we have never thought of. And we copyright that and we patent it for the use of South Africa's benefit. We will derive untold income for our country. And that is what we need to think, not to use tools that has been designed by other people and that's the end of the story, but to use our mind, this brilliant gift that we have received from Almighty Allah, and use this gift to generate and create new innovative things that will solve challenging questions in the world, and to use it to the benefit of all South Africans, like in the true spirit of Ubuntu.
1000% Ubuntu is very important, having it in our community, and not just like knowing it, but also being the torchbearer for it. And so, Ridwan, quickly, could you share some advice for teachers out there who, you know, when it comes to educating, given the context we are finding ourselves in?
I don't know how widespread it is, but I have a view that there's this resistance from teachers to use AI. And maybe it's also because they don't see the benefit. So I just want to share with you a personal story. At age 66, which I was last year, I discovered that I have friends who do not sleep. I don't pay them. And when I run out of data, I channel hop like we would do channel hopping. I go from, I don't know if I can say it, I go from DeepSeek to Gemini to Claude to so many different ones. And I ask each one of them the same question. And then I compare the notes. I first have my own ideas, of course. Pop it in there, get their ideas, and then from there I derive at what is my take on it. And I say it took me an entire Thursday afternoon, maybe sometimes Friday morning, just to write a newsletter with no emojis, for example, and to struggle to get it out in time for parents to get a newsletter. And if I had AI at my disposal, I could have produced that letter in seconds. Now imagine the amount of time that can be saved. Emails, for example. I type my email, then I ask one of my AI friends, just check it. Does it give this friendly tone, but yet professional tone? I have conversations with AI. I say good morning and thank you, and they greet me back. It's unbelievable how you can use these tools to the benefit and more positive outcome of what you want to achieve.
Technology is no longer something that is on the sidelines. It sits at the center of how we live, how we learn and interact. So from something as simple as encouraging, as stores encouraging card over cash, to larger shifts like digital citizen, and even healthcare moving into the digital space through remote healthcare via videos or phone consultations. We cannot deny that the world our children are growing in is fundamentally different. And so this conversation is just the starting point. If this is our first part of our series on the ethical use of AI. And so we focused on learners and the roles that parents can play in shaping their habits and also thinking. And so next week, we will be exploring the conversations by how AI can be used ethically in the workplace and in our everyday adult life. Jazakallah khair, Ridwan Samodien, for sharing your insight. And also for those who are interested, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on at Ridwan at citizenleaderlab.org. That is my email address, Ridwan at citizenleaderlab.org.
Ridwan, citizenleaderlab.org.
Ridwan
at citizenlab.org. Jazakallah khair. Up until you and I speak again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, and shukran for having me.
Mornings with Purpose.
Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12. Your mid-morning magazine show.
Empowering women.
Embracing community. On The Voice of the Cape.